You eliminated yourself.
Grandpa. Biologically, you definitely could be a grandmother. Definitely. She still has Andrew. This is recess.
Talk about the liquor license or just in general? Yes, President Garvey.
George says we're ready to go if everybody's ready. We're ready. Good evening. The hour being 7:09 PM on September 12th, 2022. I'd like to call to order the Village of Brookfield Committee of the Whole meeting. Bridget, can we have a roll call for the committee meeting, please?
Trustee Ketchmark?
Here.
Trustee Cote?
Here.
Trustee Hendricks?
Here.
Trustee Conroy?
Here.
Trustee Leclerc?
Here.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Here.
And President Garvey.
Here. Thank you, Bridget. The first item we have under regular business is a discussion of an ordinance granting, a proposal to grant a Class 5 liquor license to Danny's Italian Beef and Pizza at 9123 Ogden Avenue. We have a very detailed memo in our packet, but Logan, would you like to kind of summarize where we're at?
Yes, President Garvey. President Garvey, Board, thank you so much for your time tonight. Before you is Danny's Italian Pizza and Beef Class 5 liquor license. A couple other businesses in Brookfield, just for background general knowledge. Beach Avenue Barbecue has a Class 5 liquor license, as well as Luigi's Paisans Pizza 2 Incorporated. And then tonight, I also have Mario here to answer any questions that you may have about the Class 5 liquor license that he is applying for.
Thank you, Logan. Welcome, Mario, and I know you have counsel here with you. I mean, you could speak, or if you want to have your attorney speak, I know.
I'll just introduce myself.
Sure.
Good evening, President Garvey, trustees, council, and Madam Clerk, and committee members. We are before you on our Class 5 liquor license. Daniel Diatomo from Dvorak and Kelleher on behalf of Mario Zvelta. If you have any questions for my client, we'd be pleased to answer them for you.
You're not the Danny behind Danny's.
Well, you're invaded by Daniels and Italians tonight, so
No.
we're all set.
No, if there's anything you'd like to just tell us, I mean, we have your application before us, and you've be in compliance. Just, you know, what maybe brought you to this? You've had requests, demands for it, or what your thoughts are?
Well, the reason I'm here is, because last time I tried, and I said, when I made the application, I put for the gamble machines. I guess it was a mistake. But right now, because I have customers that go in there, and they have a slice of pizza, and they want, do you have any beer? I said, no, I don't. I said,
Sure.
so, that's the reason I'm here. Plus, I have like a small sitting outside because the COVID stuff, I can't have people inside. So I make a little small garden there. And there's people that want to have a beer too. But I said, well, as soon as I had to apply for it.
Okay. And you understand that the gaming license is completely a separate issue. I mean,
Yeah,
how the board votes on creating,
I totally do.
our policy is to not grant any gaming licenses to anyone at least until they've had a license for at least a year. And the fact that if the board does create a liquor license and I sign it and turn it over, it doesn't mean that we're saying you're going to get a gaming license down the road. Your request is about trying to fill a need for your customers right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? Okay. The process is we'll vote on it. It'll be up for, the board will get a chance to think about it, take in any public comment, input, and we would put it up for a vote at the meeting in 2 weeks. You're welcome to come. You don't have to be present, but you're welcome to be present. If you're not present, village staff will contact you and let you know the results of the meeting. Okay? And we appreciate all you do in the community. You got really good pizza. I haven't had one in a while. When I lived over there, I got it a little bit more, but always good pizza, good food, good sandwiches, so,
Thank you very much.
okay? Thank you, council. Thanks
Thank
for
you all
coming out
very
tonight.
much.
Appreciate it. Okay, the next item is a discussion for recommended submission for the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities Tourist Attraction and Festival Grants Program. Our Parks and Recreation Director and resident employee Staff Appreciation Day bags champion and ringer.
When I won it a couple of years ago, I didn't get anything.
We had a Staff Appreciation Day on Friday, and there was a little bit of picnic, and there was some bags tournament going on, and Stevie dominated, so could add that to one of her
She carried her whole team.
list of talents, so,
She did.
so,
Thank you. That's my office out there.
yeah.
That's her trophy. She's been complaining that she didn't get a trophy, so that's her trophy.
Thank you, Stevie.
Thank you for that. So some background on the memo that is before you tonight. The Tourism and Attractions Grant funds projects aimed at revitalizing the hard-hit tourism industry by bringing back new and returning tourism attractions and festivals to our state. The tourism
I'm sorry, is that microphone on, or maybe if it's, I don't know if everyone can hear you in the back, or it helps? There.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Yep, ooh, there we go. The Tourism Attractions and Festivals Grant Program is made possible with support of federal dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, as it's been known. It's part of a broader effort underway to help reinvigorate tourism in Illinois and is putting businesses in the industry and beyond on a path to economic recovery from COVID-19. This opportunity, as viewed by village staff, brings up a potential project that will enhance one of our most historic attractions here in Brookfield, the historic Rosedale Station. Grant funding will provide more accessibility through establishing areas for special use, as well as housing for an additional historic asset to our community, the antique fire truck currently housed at our fire station. If awarded grant funding, the site at Rosedale Station will become more usable as a facility that will attract and or bolster tourism through revitalizing the surrounding area of the existing station and create an additional amenity to the site with a freestanding garage to house the antique fire truck. The housing of this amenity will match the aesthetic of the current station, creating a learning opportunity for visitors to learn about the history of Brookfield and fire safety. And the site qualifies for grant opportunity as it is a historic site on the National Historic Site Registry. So the goal of the redevelopment is the surrounding site and not to the building itself. The highlight redevelopment includes a permanent paver patio adjacent to the current building as it is existing, as well as building that garage on property adjacent to the house. Shown on this slide here is just calling out that area, and we did call out some of the potential areas that impact building on site. There is some utilities that would restrict areas that we would want to build anything or redevelop anything on. The paver patio is anticipated to be adjacent to Salt Creek. We did discuss a possible Salt Creek overlook as part of that patio redevelopment that would provide for a permanent tenting to be placed on top for special events. So that is a potential item that can be explored, but currently it would only include that paver patio adjacent to Salt Creek on property. The garage, as we're looking at it now, the space behind Rosedale Station seems the most viable to have a garage built, and again, to house the fire truck and to be able to be a space that visitors can come to as an additional amenity to the current existing station. So being able to apply for this grant, and if awarded, we would be able to redevelop that site space for long-term vision planning of opening up that museum, being able to have visitors drawn to that facility to house special events. You know, for example, we did a murder mystery several years ago, pre-COVID. That was a very successful event with nearly 120 people. The Historical Society opened that facility. Many people got to see the interior. and use that as a special event space, which would allow it for it to be open more consistently and frequently, so that the goal being to bolster tourism into that downtown area and to create a space that people are drawn to. They can participate in special event activities, learn about the history of Brookfield, and then potentially create some increased traffic in our downtown area as well. It is a 50% match grant. Currently, the maximum applied is up to $500,000. We do not currently anticipate an amount that goes up to $500,000. It would be the building of the garage space, construction design fees, and paver patio area as part of the cost for this program. This is something the board supports moving forward with. We would be able to get a more concrete design fee and construction cost estimate, which would be included in the submission of the grant.
Thank you. When we heard about this grant, I mean, the federal government obviously has done many different grant programs through ARPA, and this one was specifically targeted toward tourism, and the criteria seem to fit. This is something that staff and I think the Historical Society and the Fire Department have been talking about for a while. The truck that we have is a big piece of our history, and it is, right now it's being stored basically at the fire station, and people don't get to see it or appreciate it as much. So when we talk about this being a garage, it's actually more of a museum display piece, correct? Where, I mean, people will actually be able to visit and observe and get close to the truck while it's in the garage.
Correct. It would not just house it. It would be a visitation area that would include learning opportunity.
And I know the Historical Society has other pieces from the fire department from years ago, the horse-drawn carriage, or the...
I had met with Stevie and Chief Adams and Tim, and we had talked over this a little bit. And yes, it is much more than a garage. It's almost like a museum annex. We looked at a couple of the other towns around us and the displays they have up in Morton, River Grove. River Grove, they have it. It's almost like a glass showcase. Hinsdale has something like that too. We also looked at some of the original pictures of the hose carts that were around town. If any of you have seen, we have the old hose cart in the museum, but there was a half a dozen of these buildings with a cupola on top, and we had talked about this garage somewhat mimicking that look, that historic look to it too. So that could be something kind of neat. Would tie into the driveway at the back of the museum. So it could be kind of exciting with it.
And the idea of, special event use space, I think Stevie's been very creative in, trying to use the station for events, but it's, this area, whole area that we've improved with the, with the bridge being completed, the canoe launch, and the bridge is going to be, with the overlook and lighting and bump out and everything will be a gathering place. So this area will attract, and having something this close to the village hall where there's the possibility of having special events, and how popular the creek has become through the efforts of the Conservation Commission and other groups. I think it's a natural tie into this area, so we appreciate the creativity and the ideas from staff on bringing this forward. Questions or comments from the board?
I have a question. My vision's not that great, Stevie, so I'm sitting here looking at this, and can you explain to me what the green patches in front of the train station that's going into Brookfield Avenue?
Sure, I did pull GIS mapping, so this was just to call out that particular piece, and the green gridded area is the sanitary large sewer structure. So
Okay.
that is an area with sewage.
Oh, okay. I was just, when I first saw that, I was like, are you putting pavers out into Brookfield Avenue? So I wasn't
Yeah,
quite sure.
no, there is a key legend on the side. I apologize. This is
Yeah, I can't see
restricted
that
by
far. Yeah.
our IT.
So those are just utilities where we really can't build anything on top of around. There's a drop shaft, I believe, there for the deep tunnel or something.
That is something that we inquired in viewing this grant and opportunities for development. We inquired with Hancock Engineering. Easements were provided and mapping. So that is definitely a piece we would confirm before building anything on top.
I'm totally in favor of this. We miss 100% of the grants we don't try for. So we might as well do it.
Kind of interesting, Fire and Police Commissioner Eddie Berman pointed out the Aaron's Fox, which I think was built in 1924, has never left Brookfield. So a lot of towns, you'll have the old trucks that went away and came back. This one has never left our town.
And 2 presidents apparently rode on it while they were president. I don't know if everybody knows that or not, but it's kind of cool.
I didn't, U.S. presidents you're talking, right?
2 U.S. presidents
Oh, 2 H.
have ridden on that machine in Brookfield.
No, wow.
Stevie, this grant, it's called the Events and Festivals Grant, right? But I think that the particular grant that we're going for in this instance, I don't know what that was, is more specifically targeted to facilities, is that correct?
Correct. So there's a total of 15 million, and you either apply for one of 2 programs within that funding. One is specific to festivals, and the other is specific to attractions, and it does call out museum spaces.
Great. And I think that this could be a great addition to our downtown. It's definitely, the museum is definitely an underused space. It's prime real estate, and we could do so much more with it if we could activate it more. I think that patio and the programming that could come along with it could be great.
And that you bring up a very good point. I think it is an underutilized asset, but with good reason or good explanation. The Historical Society runs and operates the building, and you're sitting next to the person that probably does most of the work, if not all of the work. But I think they're going to be having an annual fund drive coming up soon, seeking donations to help with everything from the heating and they have utility bills, they have maintenance costs and things. So if you get the mailer or email and you see about it, please consider making a donation to support the Historical Society, because whatever happens with this grant, that building is still owned and operated and worked on by a few people and a few volunteers, and we all consider it a treasure. And there's hope and talk that maybe we can help with staffing and getting it open more in the future, but every little bit helps in terms of financial contributions. So, and they are a 501c3, so you can make a tax-deductible contribution if you get the information on the annual fund drive. Any other questions or comments from the board? So I guess we're just looking for a consensus to move forward with the submission of the grant. Is there a clear consensus from the board that staff should go ahead with the submission?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Stevie. And while you're on a roll and your grant submission hats, you want to talk about the OSLAD grant for Ehlert Park, please?
Absolutely. The next memo before the board is the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Open Space Land Acquisition and Development Grant. Background on the OSLAD, as it's known program. This is a state-financed grant program that provides funding assistance to local government agencies for acquisition and or development of land for public parks and open space. The next round of OSLAD grant opportunity has increased its funding to a maximum of $600,000, which is a 50% match for total redevelopment costs. This was previously limited in our last OSLAD submission for the redevelopment of Candy Cane Park to $400,000. Current potential submission for this project features the redevelopment of the Ehlert Park, and included in the memo is a highlight of the updated features. Before you on this slide is the concept plan for redevelopment, with the highlight being the redeveloped inclusive playground. The inclusive playground piece would include port and play surfacing, as well as play features that would accommodate not only ADA accessible pieces for children and youth who require some mobility assistance, wheelchairs, walkers, or other assistance, but also incorporate nature-based play and sensory play items for children with other disabilities. Included in the redevelopment is also incorporating some more accessible pathways into the interior of that park space, most especially with the expansion of the park to inclusive playground and redeveloping the current Memorial Plaza that's there at the Kessman Garden. So that piece would be preserved and redeveloped to provide more accessibility than it is currently. would also include a redevelopment of the baseball field and soccer fields. Currently, that open space is most largely utilized by AYSO Soccer and our Junior Bulldogs football club, the tackle football group. So we want to create an ancillary space within that green space that can be utilized by more than just one athletic group and open it up to potential 3 different sport opportunities in that space. This is a 50% match opportunity for the village, with the largest expense being that inclusive play space and pour-and-play surfacing, but that is really integral to being able to create that inclusive environment for children. The last time this park was redeveloped was in 1998-99. That was called out in our open space plan, and as part of that plan, the recommendation was redevelopment and improvement of the park with pursuance of grant opportunities like this as the most viable way to make that redevelopment happen. Included on this slide is just some additional background information on inclusive play. That is, again, the most expensive piece of this redevelopment project. And the information here is really meant to highlight the importance of and what is an inclusive playground. So it's going to be universally designed, sensory rich, and that is related to what I called out with other sensory development disabilities that youth have. And on the bottom there, you can see a chart on many of the abilities that would be able to provide some play space opportunity for children that go beyond just mobility. Total cost for maximum match amount, including all above features included and listed in the memo, totals $1,266,400. That is a cost estimate with all features called out. And the village contribution amount would be $666,400, and that would be funded out of the general fund and divided between the 2023 and 2024 fiscal years. It is an additional $66,000 over the match amount, with cost primarily being the result of cost for the pour-and-play surfacing and keeping, as well as keeping the existing size of the pavilion structure. That would be replaced as well. The current structure has been over 20 years since it's been touched or redeveloped, so it would allow for a new pavilion structure, and the cost of that is significant in total amount.
The pour-and-play, and I'm glad you pointed out the pour-and-play surfacing isn't a additional cost, but I mean, I know in conversations with you and the board's experience that is an investment that we're happy to. I mean, in the past, filling areas with mulch and trying to come back and do it every couple of years in the safety. I know we had this discussion when we were doing Candy Cane Park, that it was an add-on that we did there that I think we've been pretty happy with, right?
Right.
I mean, you pay more upfront for it, but it lasts longer, it's safer. In the past, we've, if you, even down here in Kiwanis Park, I mean, the mulch areas around the playground equipment, how long the mulch stays in that area and then has to be replaced in the proper depth. So I think, it's the trend of us trying to put in the best possible long-term durable surface and safest surface. The other thing that I was going to bring, just because it just struck me when you talked about the Memorial Garden, I ran into members of the Kessman family, the Kessman Memorial Garden, at an event this summer at the park, and they did, they helped fund that originally, and I think they were talking about trying to, they wanted it to be upgraded and would help out. I'm not saying they're going to pay for, a complete project, but remind me when that comes up that they would like to see that improved and offer to help in some way. And then we've been very successful with these OSLAD grants, and I know you know what goes into these and the presentations and the documentation. I know letters of support from community organizations and things, and because such a large part of it is the inclusive playground, our close relationship with CSPAR, I mean, I'm sure that, obviously they would support something like this, and, the way we cooperate with them and house programs here, I think that would show. I know it's a point system and so many things go into it, and the way we've been successful is that we kind of leave no points on the table. So I'm sure like a additional letter of support from C-SPAR and the other organizations we deal with would be helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
Questions or comments from the board?
Stevie, a couple questions. The ball field that we'd be working on is in the bottom corner there?
Correct, the southwest corner on Garrettson and Elm.
What is that, who uses that right now?
Currently,
kind of
that
a
is an
practice?
open recreational softball field.
Okay.
So there are no current reserved use through any organization. That one is kept open for public community access.
And it would still be the anticipated use?
Correct.
And then in the memo, the renovated Memorial Plaza, it has the dollar amount, but then it says not included. What does that mean?
That is a good question. It is included in the total redevelopment costs within the attached cost estimate.
Okay.
Other questions, comments from the board?
I love to see this. I know that I have been out there on Saturday mornings in the fall with AYSO, and it looks like every kid in Brookfield is out there as well with all their families. It's very highly used. So I appreciate that you're working with AYSO and with the Bulldogs and with the Little League to get what these groups need and what their constituents desire. And I love the inclusive playground. These inclusive playgrounds, especially with the sensory piece, especially with the nature play piece, if it's a really, truly inclusive playground, those can be destinations. Families come from other towns all around to these places because there aren't very many in our area. So if we really, truly make this an inclusive playground and do a great job, it will be a destination. It will be a jewel for Brookfield. So I'm excited to see that. I would like to request that we go out for RFP on the design services if we can. I know that we've had Hitchcock do some work on this already, but as a landscape architect, I need to plug for my profession and say that it really does improve competitiveness when you go out for requests for proposals from other firms. It makes everybody work a little harder and take a closer look at their pricing so we can get potentially better prices for the design work and maybe get some of the designers to think a little outside the box rather than going with the same firm. And maybe we end up going with the same firm because they are great, but maybe we find somebody new who's got some great ideas.
Other questions, comments from the board?
I agree. Thank you for pursuing these grants and finding great projects for Brookfield. So really appreciate it. I know it's a lot of effort.
I think it's great, and any investment in South Brookfield is great. And I think these amenities would be awesome to have, especially if anyone were to, hypothetically speaking, put a local recreation facility in the general vicinity to be able to make use of. Thank you.
And obviously your point about the accessible playground and just making the path system more accessible to get people into that. I mean, I know you've thought all these things out and been, this is something that you've been planning for a while. And like I said, I feel like I know we've done very well with the OSLAD program. And you said this area wasn't improved, but I mean, some of the land acquisition over there was done with OSLAD grants, years back, and with Candy Cane Park and other things that we've done through the OSLAD program. I know you're a familiar face down there. But I like to think that these grant programs reward people that do the projects right, have the impact, and have the matching funds available. And again, I know you've talked with Doug and Tim about the match, and we look what we're seeing that it'll take fiscal years 2023 and 2024 to get our match together and do that. But because the position we're in, we're able to do these things and leverage our money to get a project done like this that will have a tremendous impact, for the long term for the village. We always know we're landlocked and we have very limited park space, and I think we've done the best we can to get the most out of our limited space. And Trustee Hendrick's point about this being, be a destination, there's other areas, other towns that have not been able to do this or even look to do this, making it a destination location for people to come, I think just shows our leadership in this area. So once again, what we're looking here is a consensus to submit the OSLAD grant for staff to go ahead with that. Is there a clear consensus from the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you, board.
So Steve, you can go downstairs and start working on finishing up the grant application.
Great.
No.
Let's go.
Thank you very much, Stevie. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. The next item is a discussion of a recommended text amendment to sections 14-178 and 6630 related to tattoo parlor use. Kate?
Okay. So it's not. Is it coming?
So, just a point of clarification, there'll be a public comment time. So thank you, President Garvey and honorable trustees. The discussion before you relates to the potential change in text amendments for sections 14-178 and 63-30 of the Village Code related to tattoo parlor use. And so up for consideration would be modifying or striking 14-128 from the business licensing and regulation section of the Village Code. And as noted in the report, presently on record in the village, tattooing and body piercing establishments are prohibited, and that dates back to the 1964 code as well as the 1993 code. At this time, the zoning code does not include a tattoo parlor use whatsoever based on those business licensing and regulation, or that section of business licensing and regulation. And as a tattoo parlor is a business type that provides a service that may be sought out by patrons both within the community and also the regional area, it's staff's opinion that this type of use would be most appropriate in the C1 General Service District. You were provided a zoning map for your review, and just for clarification, that particular zoning district is Ogden Avenue, from Custer Avenue west to Deo Avenue. And I provided you some insights as to case law for approximately the last 10 years. And in summary, what case law represents is that tattooing does fall under First Amendment rights and free speech. And furthermore, to have a better understanding of operational regulations, this type of use is strictly regulated by the Illinois Department of Public Health, and there have been acts passed in both 2007 and 2008 related to this type of business use operation. And the final insight that I provided relates to the regulatory approach of surrounding communities. So there were a number of communities in my research that appear to have prohibited tattoo parlors by the practice of omission. That essentially means that if you contact one of these municipalities, because it's not represented in their regulations anywhere, they therefore default to not allowed. And I also did determine that Lyons currently prohibits tattoo parlors in their code, also dating back to a similar historical time frame, 1964. and our near neighbors in Riverside and Summit do allow this type of use, although they regulate it in slightly different ways. So this is before you for discussion this evening, and with an interest potentially in changing the code in the village, this would then go potentially to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So and I'm glad you, just so to be clear, staff's recommendation, if the board is, considering the possibility of this, that sending this to the Planning and Zoning Commission for public hearing for their analysis and their expertise, and a public hearing where public at large could give their input on it. Is that what you're recommending?
That's correct, President Garvey.
Thank you. Okay. Do the board members have any questions of staff at this time?
My question is, why limiting it to C1? What is the rationale for that?
Sure. So zoning overall is about compatibility of uses. And so I came prepared for your question. Each zoning district in the village has a slightly different explanation as to what purposes it would serve based on the definition of C3 speaking to accessibility to end users from both within the community and outside, and Ogden being a commonly traveled path through the village. That was what that recommendation was based on. There's certainly an opportunity to expand that to other parts of the village. The station areas, which affect the majority of our downtown Brookfield area there on Grand Boulevard and Prairie as well. Those particular station areas speak a little bit to more of mixed use and pedestrian scale and more local commerce, but this seemed to be an appropriate way to transition a use into the community.
Any other questions or comments? I mean, if we do send it to the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think this is something that they would address. I mean, we always get very thoughtful insight and input from the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I guess I'm just looking to see if, I will be looking to see if there's a consensus to send them, but I just want to see if there's any more questions or comments from the board at this time.
Kate, why are we stopping at Deo, Custard at Deo?
That's a great question. To the west of Deo, that becomes, if I'm not mistaken, Station Area 4. And that particular station area, in terms of development goals represented in the comprehensive plan and whatnot, is more focused on that Congress Park redevelopment area. And so based on the significant distance that the C1 district covers, staff felt that it wasn't necessary to include it in that station area at this time, but again, absolutely up for discussion.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so as many of you may know, may not know, that I do have a lot of tattoos. I do. I have frequented many tattoo parlors throughout the world and in the Chicago area, throughout the United States, etc. Tattoo parlors today are not what they were 30, 40 years ago. They're heavily regulated in the United States. They're heavily regulated in the health. They're tattoo artists. They are regulated. They have to get certain certificates, bloodborne pathogen certificates. They have to get all this. They have to get all these certifications in order to even do tattoos. It's not the same where you would walk up and like, I just want this. Every now and then a tattoo parlor might have, it's called a flash day. A flash day is when you just pick something off the wall. But 99% of tattoo parlors that are in existence, those are by appointment only. So it doesn't even increase a crowd. So you may have 3 or 4 tattoo artists that work in a shop, and they're only working on one person at a time. So you might have 2 or 3 customers and then 2 or 3 artists at a time. So it's not even like a big conglomerate of people that show up. And in fact, if you just walk by a tattoo parlor, walk in, somebody's going to stop you at the beginning and say, "Can I help you with something?" You don't even browse because there's just a counter there. You have to set up appointments ahead of time. It's a very heavily regulated industry. I think that the area by the train station, like near Irish Times or next to Phil's, that area is open for opportunity to actually have a tattoo parlor there as well. You could take the train, you could go in, you can take care of whatever you're going to, you get your item, and then you can get back on the train and you can leave again. It would be hypocritical of me to say I'd have anything against the tattoo parlor. I'm totally in favor of that. I would like to move forward with that. I just wanted to put out there that there's a lot of misconceptions of what tattoo parlors are. And they're not dirty, they're very clean. They go through a lot of regulations. They do get surprise visits, they do get inspections. They're very controlled. Very, very controlled, and they're very clean. And tattoo artists are not that what you see on TV, et cetera. They take their art very serious, and they take the health part very serious. And they spend a lot of time working on that, and they cater towards you as far as making sure that when you leave, there's no infections. And it's not like you're going to get drunk and get a tattoo because they won't even see you. So that kind of thing happened maybe in the 70s or the 60s, but that doesn't happen today. Not at a legitimate tattoo parlor that follows all the regulations.
Thank you, Trustee Cote. Anyone else, any comments at this point?
I agree to put it to zoning as well. I was surprised to find that it wasn't an accepted use in Brookfield, and it doesn't feel like much different. I know it is different based on all the things you said, but a salon where you're getting your hair dyed 20 colors as well, and making an appointment and going through that. So it seems like a use that we have all over town as far as other personal care, and I would like to see it move forward and also be considered in other zoning districts as well.
Okay, we, I always allow public comment at the end of the meeting, but I mean, it seems like you're here to comment particularly on this. So if whoever wants to speak, if you could just give us your name for the record, and you can address the board.
Hi, Attorney Elizabeth Parrish. This is my client, Rebecca Houston, who is the potential tattoo artist who is mentioned in your packet. And I just wanted to make her available to you if you had any specific questions about her or her business or tattooing in general. That would be helpful to the board in its decision to move this to the zoning committee.
Well, thank you for making yourselves available. At this point, I mean, we're not going to talk about a specific business or a specific license. I think staff has brought to our attention that our ordinances and, dating back to the 60s do not allow this. And I think the next step is I think I'm sensing a consensus from the board to send us to the planning and zoning, but we always give the direction first to send it to planning and zoning. So if the board has any specific questions about tattoo parlors in general or particular, or the generalities of the business, I don't think we need to or should get into an individual business request until we create the possible use or permitted use, but I appreciate you being here for that purpose.
I believe that Trustee Cote covered a lot of what I would be saying anyway, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming out. I think in a moment, we're going to send it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I wanted to inform the board, and I'll print this email and I'll make it part of the record and give it, but I had a resident specifically email me right before the meeting indicating they planned it to come, and I'll just read it to the board and then I'll print it out so it can go on the record. Hello, Mr. Garvey. My plan was to come and speak at the village meeting tonight, but my husband has just tested positive for COVID and I don't want to take any chances of infecting anyone else. I have to voice my opinion on this matter, though. I'm writing to voice my support for the addition of a tattoo shop in downtown Brookfield. In addition to bringing additional traffic to the area, it will add to the artistic indie vibe that Brookfield has been nurturing with Galloping Ghost Arcade, Burger Antics, and Little Owl Social Club. We don't need to compete with LaGrange. We need to attract a cooler, younger crowd, and this is a great way to do that. Galloping Ghost is a great anchor. A tattoo shop can help bring that downtown. When my husband and I get tattooed, we always take advantage of local restaurants and other shopping, and dropping something downtown is perfect for that. In addition to what we spend on our tattoos, we'll drop $100 easily on food and drinks. And lest anyone still have the archaic belief that tattoos are for unsavory people, my husband and I are both heavily tattooed, work in tech, and have lived in Brookfield for over a decade. We want to see our neighborhood supporting creative and artistic businesses and the awesome artists in this area. We have amazing artists with large internet followings. We've got Chicago Donut Company. We've got the best burger shop in the suburbs. Let's keep up the vibe and bring a tattoo shop to downtown. And it's from a Tierra Lynn Agresta, Agresta, and Adrian Agresta from Brookfield. And I'll print that and I'll provide it to staff, and they'll put it in terms of the minutes. And then there'll be other public comment allowed. But is there anyone else in the audience that specifically wanted to comment on this? I mean, I have public comment coming up in just a moment anyway, but anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Is there a consensus from the board to send this?
Can I ask you a quick question, President Garvey?
Sure.
So my question is, why would this be going to planning and zoning with staff's recommendation as far as what district it should go into? Shouldn't staff's recommendation come after the planning and zoning to the board, or wouldn't planning and zoning make that recommendation on what districts? I feel like they're being confined with the C1 recommendation.
And knowing staff, I know that the original, just the general blanket recommendation was to send to Planning and Zoning Commission, but I know hearing the input from the board, I think the charge to the Planning and Zoning Commission will be broader than that, with an open template in terms of what they could recommend. And knowing our Planning and Zoning Commission, even if we didn't specifically, they would give us their true and best opinion. So I think the board's intention is clear, not to limit the charge to the Planning and Zoning Commission, just to address the general where, if the use should be permitted, how it should be permitted, and where it should be permitted is the general charge to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
Just hearing from the board, that's I think the clear consensus. And
Understood.
then it will come back as some type of recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, who is just an advisory group, and then this board with staff input and public input would have the final say. But that was I appreciate you bringing that up, but I think that was clear, and I think Kate was indicating that, it's just the initial recommendation, but Planning and Zoning has got a free slate to kind of address the issue as a whole.
I would personally like to have it expanded beyond the C1. As I was saying, the downtown section is a great area for that. And like I said, tattoo parlors are very clean. There's really no reason for them to be limited just on Ogden Avenue. They could be almost anywhere.
Well, I fully trust in our Planning and Zoning Commission to give it a very good public hearing and give us a very strong recommendation with the proper reasons. So, correct, Trustee Hendricks?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we will send it to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we'll go forward from there. And then at some point, I'll be back with some type of opinion or recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and last but not least, a status report on the Village Board Strategic Plan.
Thank you, President Garvey. Certainly not least, it's last, but it's not least. Back in 2020, the Village Board met in a workshop setting with Mr. Robert Oberweis from Executive Partners, and you all created a strategic plan. You went through a series of exercises. The actual plan was in your packet, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You went through that are affecting the village in general. Ultimately, what your discussion ended with was the actual plan, and that plan consisted of 8 goals that were to be pursued over the next 3 years. So starting in basically 2020 to 2023, there were various broad goals that we're going to talk about in a minute. And we're here tonight to it's kind of fun to look back. You take it for granted as you go through the crush of business on a daily basis, how much work you've actually achieved and what you've accomplished. So we're here tonight to give an update. We last talked about this about a year ago. So I think we've said the board has always said they don't like to create plans and put it up on a shelf. Let's keep these plans in front of staff, in front of the community, in front of the board. So we are here tonight to update and report on what we've done to update and achieve the plan. And I will say that while I'm going to do most of the talking tonight, this status comes to you as a result of discussion with all the department heads. And all of the things that have been implemented have obviously been implemented through village board discussion, through departments, through commissions and so forth. And so it's been kind of a fun process, iterative process to go through and provide the updates. So I will lead us through those now. If at any time you want to have any questions, just stop me, or otherwise I will keep motoring.
Indicate to the board, we're going point by point. If you have something, just interject at that point. If you're like, hey, you can come back at the end, but feel free to, let's make it a free-flowing kind of, while it's in the flow of the particular topic, if you have any questions.
Absolutely. First goal was to create development plans and begin steps to execute developments at Congress Park, downtown, 8 Corners, and the Ogden Avenue corridor plan. Well, this shows up really nice. In red, it was in your packet. Hopefully I'm sure you all poured over it. Those were that's yesterday's news anyways. Everything that's in red was what we updated you on last year in terms of the plan. Really what's more important is what's in white, and that's what we've accomplished since the last update.
And Tim, because I know it's hard to see, we can see it very good on our laptops here, but just maybe for the audience, I want to just summarize the 4 points that are in red the audience probably can't read.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, you want me to do it?
Now I can't read it. Yeah, if you can read it.
I can read it. So the 4 points in red that you can't read, I think it's because of the new lighting. If you can't tell, we're all getting sun lamps up here. And
So energy efficient.
Yes, right.
The points in red that you might have trouble reading on the screen are: staff has met with several potential developers of Congress Park site. None have moved forward. Next point is 1 new multifamily project on Grand is under construction. 2 more should begin soon. The next point is economic development consultant secured to assist in marketing available development sites. And Energize Ogden process has conducted 2 public hearings. Plan is being drafted by Kimberly Horn. Those are the 4 points in red.
Excellent. Excellent work, President Garvey. And what have we finished this year? Well, that plan that you just referenced has been completed. The village board has accepted the work of Kimberly Horn and the community in terms of the Energize Ogden plan, so we are in the process of pursuing that. Phase 1 engineering, as the board is aware, we've received a grant to fund that, and we are working with the village engineer and with our engineering firm to move forward on operationalizing that plan. So that's exciting. That is a multi-year process, construction. If we are lucky enough to get granting to actually implement the streetscape improvements, the right-of-way improvements, and so forth in Ogden, would probably not take place until 2027, 2028 or so. Second of all, we continue at all times with community development's help to meet with interested parties for the Congress Park site. We've had a lot of interest in the site. One individual was about to start with the Planning Commission. He unfortunately pulled out, but we continue to meet with individuals who are very interested in developing that site. As the board is aware, there is a new mixed-use building being completed on Grand Ave, that is completed on Grand. We're waiting for some commercial tenants in there. That developer has started another project. The one on Sunnyside is residential only, but that project has just begun, and so we're excited about that. We continue to meet with interested parties. McDonough is the name of the owners right now of the Triangle site right downtown, Brookfield Avenue and Fairview. They are interested in pursuing a project there that we are going to continue to have discussions with them and see that project through. We've talked about at the last board meeting, the last committee of the whole meeting, an ITEP that we're applying for downtown streetscape improvements. That's Grand, Prairie, Sunnyside, and Grant, and then south of the tracks near Irish Times and so forth. Streetscape improvements will include trees, new lighting, decorative sidewalks, other right-of-way benches, and other kind of streetscape amenities that would hopefully add to the neighborhood feel of the downtown. We are in the process of redoing and rebuilding the 8 Corners fountain. I'm not going to report on that progress this evening, but we continue to work with that contractor and have dealt with a couple of challenges there, but that project will be complete, we hope, by this fall. And finally, under this goal, several months ago, we did complete, the village board approved zoning code amendments that actually reduced the amount of parking required for commercial projects in the downtown area. And this came about as a result of, we kind of removed barriers to development. We were bringing and requiring people to go through the parking variance process, and everybody was getting variances granted for parking because there really is no place to provide, or very little place to provide off-street parking for downtown development. So the board endorsed the recommendation of the Planning Commission, basically eliminated most of that for commercial projects and left it in place for residential projects in the downtown area. Any questions about any of those? Okay. Moving on. That was too bad our zoo friends left, but the second goal was to implement strategies to create opportunities to attract business from zoo customers. I do have the red in front of me now. Or President Garvey, you were excellent at reading it before. If you want to read the red ones again.
I'll give you a little bit of a break so you can read them. But the points in red are Brookfield Bucks program was implemented with limited success. Secured a contract with Beeline Communications to develop a marketing plan. Village staff met with zoo marketing officials to discuss partnership opportunities, and work is ongoing with other municipalities on a new trail extension which will serve the zoo main entrance.
And we've done so much since then, so it makes that look silly. We've launched the Enjoy Brookfield website, working with the Chamber of Commerce. My office, Community Development, City Klima has been working with Enjoy Brookfield as a website to complement other marketing activities that are happening both with the zoo, with the chamber, and in the community.
Tim, can I interject real quick? I neglected to mention that these window clings for Enjoy Brookfield are going to be going out to businesses here in the coming weeks. So basically any chamber business, any village business, any village organization really will have this in their windows to help promote the site and drive traffic. But Enjoy Brookfield window cling with the QR code to help raise awareness of the site and drive traffic there. So
very good.
Yep, excellent. Thank you. Secondly, as has been discussed several different points this evening, our new Economic Development Commission has been launched. We've had one meeting. There is zoo membership on that committee. We look forward to working with her and the zoo on collaborating and becoming partners now that she is now the zoo is an official part of the EDC. We do think that will cement our relationship and kind of help keep each other more in tune with what's going on in the other organizations, so that should pay some dividends down the road. We have a specific economic development plan that was created. The village board approved this. There are specific marketing goals included in that plan. So we look forward to the achievement of those, and that plan will be brought before you at various points, depending on what's going on in the village. So we look forward to implementing that. And finally, one thing that we haven't talked much about lately, but there is work going on behind the scenes, is the village board is aware. We are working with our neighboring communities on the expansion of the Des Plaines River Trail. Part of this, or one of the key activities, involves creating better linkage with the zoo. So we're putting a new path down 31st Street from basically, I think, Prairie, correct, at the west end, all the way to First Avenue on the east. We have met with the zoo folks, and we think we've gotten good cooperation, and we've identified how we want to get that trail across the creek and then across the street, across 31st Street, and provide a good high visibility access point to the north entrance place where there is bike parking now, and that's the main entrance of the zoo with the tunnel going in, the tunnel underneath 31st Street. We are working with those partners. It's been a slow slog. We're working with the county, we're working with IDOT. I think we've got some movement now. Right, Emily? She has fingers. It's not a good sign when she's relying on fingers crossed, but it's been one of those projects that is funded by a myriad of governmental organizations, but we continue to work with the IDOT, with the county, and with our neighboring communities to implement that. But the bottom line is, when that project is done, our goal, we've talked about traffic and traffic congestion and concerns with people coming to the zoo, the implementation of this new path and new trail will provide a regional linkage to get people to the zoo without getting in cars, without having to drive through our neighborhoods. So we're hoping that will become kind of a mainstay. Any questions there? Okay. Third goal was continued development of diverse housing stock consistent with neighborhood's character.
And the points in red addressed is stationary zoning districts reviewed and updated, new multifamily housing projects under construction and/or soon to start in downtown, and staff continually meets with developers to highlight development sites.
Pretty good. Specifically, this past year, as the board is aware, the former St. Barbara's Convent site is being redeveloped as multifamily apartments. There's been quite a bit of discussion about the Plan Commission and the Village Board level about that. We're excited about that project. I've already referenced, we have a new multifamily project beginning on Sunnyside. As I've mentioned, but it pertains here as well, we continue to meet with interested parties on the Triangle site downtown. We do view that as one of the highest priority development sites in terms of meeting the Village Board's goal of providing higher densities around our train stations. So we are certainly passing that comment and that sentiment on to McDonough as they work through their projects and their plan. What we don't talk much about is we now have a full-time property maintenance inspector that's hired, and his job is specifically to enforce neighborhood standards and property maintenance standards. And Drew Harrington spends all of his time out in the community enforcing things, neighborhood complaints, resident complaints, and so forth. So it is nice to have kind of a one person responsible for following through on all of those things, which falls into the enforcement of neighborhood character. And finally, the board approved in this year's budget a new funding, a new program that's designed to incentivize the public to protect their homes, protect their investments, and try to mitigate the negative effects of sewage discharging backwards into their homes. So the board has approved and endorsed a program whereas the village will rebate half those costs up to, I believe it's $5,000 maximum contribution from the village to put in either overhead sewers, backflow prevention, and those type of improvements. Last I looked, I believe 35 applicants have been received for that program. So it's been well received. I know daily I hear staff on the phone with residents looking into that, so more are coming. So we're excited about that.
Any questions or comments on that goal? Okay.
Okay, fourth is develop an infrastructure replacement strategy and capital plan.
And again, the points in red that are a little hard to read on the screen just say fifth and final year of street replacements will be completed in 2021. Grant and other funding sources being sought for non-village owned streets. And a water main replacement program was presented and approved by the village board.
Very good. 2021 saw the last year of streets being funded by the bond increase from several years ago that was completed. So that was kind of a milestone and a well-earned kind of completion of that project, that process, I should say, that consisted of many projects. Many different streets were replaced under that program. Sidewalk replacement is ongoing. That's an ongoing endeavor of the village. We've spent a lot of time over the past year discussing how to replace our aging 100-year-old water mains. So the village board has endorsed and approved a plan and a funding mechanism to start a phased replacement of all of our oldest water mains. And the village board took a very important step in recognizing the need to replace our lead individual service lines into people's homes that were lead. One update to that, and one kind of good news that we are seeing, is the board is aware that we are starting to now do the surveys of trying to understand how much lead are in the service lines. We're doing this as part of the MTU replacements. We anticipated, or we estimated, that something like 90 to 95% of the lines were going to be lead. What we're finding so far, and knock on wood, it's much, much less than that is lead. So we're finding that, I mean, to a significant degree, there's much less lead that needs to be replaced on these lines than what we anticipated. I'm not going to give out specific numbers because we're not far enough along yet in the surveying, but I'm comfortable in that where they've surveyed, where people have responded and allowed us into their homes to review, and I do want to make a point of information to the public is let us into your homes. We are not in there to do anything else other than to look at your MTU and to survey what kind of line you have coming in. We are running into some resistance in some cases where residents are not responding to us, not setting up the appointments to get into the homes. We will get into all the homes eventually, but we've been all over. We've been north, south, east, and west, kind of spotting all over the place, and we are finding that there's less lead in lines than we thought. So that's good news.
If it's not lead, what is it? Is it galvanized, Tim? Or?
Yep. It could be copper, it could be a galvanized pipe, but it's mostly either copper or it's lead. We're finding it's more copper than we thought. And I don't want to encourage people to think they can do it themselves. We have to get into the homes to look at to replace the MTUs anyway, so we will get into the homes eventually. So for those of you watching at home, respond to our mailings, let us into your home so that we can get that work done. It's done at no charge to homeowners. As part of that plan, the board gave us direction. We are pursuing IEPA, Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. We're looking for grants through them for the lead line replacements, and we are applying for low-interest loans. There are no grants available for the water main replacements, but we do anticipate participating in the IEPA low-interest loan. It is the lowest cost loan program that anyone knows about for replacing water mains. So those are very important, expensive, and long-range programs that will benefit the village for many generations to come. The village has been very aggressive working with the village engineer, Hancock Engineering. We apply for STP grant funding whenever we can to fund street replacements. Now that we work with the West Central Municipal Conference. We get on their, not only their primary lists, we get on their auxiliary lists, their secondary lists. When grant funding becomes available, we are quick to catch it. And our budget process, thank goodness, leaves us enough flexibility where we come back to the village board and say, there's an opportunity for Burlington Avenue, for instance, or Brookfield Avenue to be replaced. We have this money set aside in this fund. We can take advantage of the 80% funding, and the village board has been showing great vision and telling us to pursue those. So we continue to do those, and I continue to stress Hitchcock to continue to bring those opportunities to us. I've already talked about the ITAP grant that we're applying for downtown streetscape improvements. I've already mentioned the grant for phase 1 engineering for Ogden Avenue. And there's a little bridge project going on outside that is being, I want to remind everyone, is 80% funded through the state of Illinois. So when that project is done, we can all sit back and laugh about all the challenges that has brought it to that point. It is important to note that 80% of that project is being funded by the state of Illinois. Any questions there?
Questions, comments on goal 4?
Okay. Goal 5. Continue technology improvements and create better efficiencies in customer service.
And the points on red previously addressed, just GIS is ongoing, new board portal packet portal, a document management system, a work order system, website to be updated, and social media will continue and expand.
Thank you. A lot of effort has been undertaken here, so I'm proud to present these various accomplishments and movement towards the fulfillment of this goal. As the board is aware, and now that this lighting is so much better, your televised images are going to be even better received by the public. But we did start several months ago televising these board meetings, increased transparency to the public, much better cataloging now of village board meetings that you can see at any point in time, either live or off the village website. So that was a key initiative to bring our government to better access. We continually work together with all departments on implementing new modules for online interaction with our residents. We've, in the last several months, added license renewals, code enforcement, fillable PDF forms. See-Click Fix has been a key initiative, again, all with the goal of allowing our residents, if they want to talk, they want to contact us during non-normal business hours. Any of these opportunities are available 24 hours a day. It makes it easier for the village, for the residents to contact us. And especially on the See-Click Fix side, it's easier and more organized fashion for most of the Public Works Department to catalog and to keep organized all these requests. I think we had an update on this maybe a meeting or two ago. I believe we were up to close to 1,000 requests that have come in via See-Click Fix. So I would say that one is definitely a success in meeting the goals of the village board. We have an interdepartmental team working on website redevelopment, trying to understand, we're looking at other cities, other examples of websites that we like. Not that we have to pattern ourselves after somebody else, but it is nice to see best practices. We're working on that. Every department is involved, and we are expecting in the first 2 or 3 months of 2023 to be unveiling a new website. So that's kind of exciting. That'll be with the goal in mind of more user-friendly to the public, easier to find information. I know I've heard from people from time to time that information, trying to find information on our current website, you have to really know where to look, and it's buried. And I agree with that. And the new emphasis will be making it much easier to search and find information that the public may be looking for. Public safety has been actively involved in implementing new technology improvements. We were the first, or one of the first departments, maybe the first department in the area that implemented body cameras, and we did that before it was a requirement of the state of Illinois. And those body cameras are now, we're basically finishing, is it a year? Almost continuing a year of using body cameras, and that's been, Chief Caravella has been very instrumental in getting that, working with our staff. There was a little bit of resistance at first. It's new, a little unknown what was going to happen, but it's been very smooth, and I know of no problems that have developed because of the body cameras. And Chief Adams received a grant this year that we're implementing this year to buy computers to be installed in all the rigs, so that as we're responding to an emergency call, whether it be in an ambulance or a fire truck, they can pull up GIS data, they can understand building plans, they can understand the site layout prior to responding to an emergency. So that was good work on his part to find that grant money. Excuse me. We continue to be active in the GIS consortium. This year we've rolled out a tree inventory, and lead water service lines are being tracked and implemented and put on the GIS, so we can look in 2 seconds, know exactly where the lead lines will be. And finally, as the village board is aware, I've talked about the MTU replacements. Part of that project also included the unveiling of the Beacon, the newest Beacon water meter system, and so now the public, if anyone's interested, can use the online system and find out much more specific and timely information on how their water usage is trending this year versus years previous. All kinds of good information for the interested water customers now available.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments on the technology improvements goal?
Very good. Goal 6, continue sidewalk and tree replacements and other sustainability initiatives.
So Tim could have a drink of water. I'll talk
you,
about
sir.
the items in red. Sidewalk and tree replacement programs are ongoing. GIS tree inventory. Tree trimming program ongoing. LED replacements at Department of Public Works facility. And water conservation through leak detection surveys.
Excellent. What we've done this year is we're continuing the sidewalk and tree replacements. As we have seen, LED lights have now been installed in most areas of this building. I believe they're already installed in Public Works, I believe in the fire stations as well. So at the completion of both sides, the police station and Village Hall, this entire facility will have LED lights, which are certainly brighter than the old lights and also much more energy efficient. We've also worked with the Little League associations, and we've replaced, I think, 2 ball fields? 3. We've replaced the lights in 3 ball fields with LED lights. And I will say with all of these projects, we have been very fortunate in working with ComEd. Primarily, most of this is being done at virtually no cost to the village. So we're taking advantage of ComEd's requirement in the state of Illinois to provide for these programs, and we are tapping into all of the grant programs that we can to get these LED lights installed at no cost or little cost to the village. Trustee Klusny's been very instrumental in getting us involved in the C4 initiative, working with the West Central Municipal Conference. So that's a new initiative that we have just signed on to, but we will be coming back to the board periodically with updates on that. We continue to work with Groot on our e-waste drop-off program. And finally, I believe this is the last, finally, bioswales. We've done a controlled burn at all of them. So we've improved the ones that we've had, and we've added one to Candy Cane Park. That was one of the key elements of the new and improved and reopened Candy Cane Park.
Great. Any questions on Goal 6? Comments?
Do we have an idea when the next e-waste drop-off might be?
It's a great
You
question.
happen to know, Logan?
No,
I don't know.
Not off the top of my head, but I can definitely come back to the board and let everyone know.
I believe the Conservation Commission is looking into dates with Groot.
And I believe we're expanding. I think there was Groot had provided 1 dumpster. I think now they're going to provide up to 4.
I think they did 2, but they were
2.
overflowing last year, so I think we went back and asked for 4.
The new and improved e-waste drop-off program. Okay, moving right along. Goal 7, facilitate the support of health and wellness in our community.
And the points in red are chaplain service started in the police department, diversity initiatives identified and currently in pursuit. And then we participated with Brookfield in events to promote active lifestyles and began construction on a new canoe launch.
Very good. Canoe launch is completed. We are working on punch list items almost as we speak. Candy Cane Park has been renovated. It's now more available for greater segments of the community. We've established intergovernmental agreements with almost all of our school districts now that allow us access into their buildings for day camp use and other uses to increase the amount of programming and active uses that we can utilize in non-village facilities, so that's important. Our recreation guide is now available. We talked earlier about a guide that was available in Spanish. Our rec guide is now going to be available in Spanish to reach a new audience. We've created a Parks Scholarship Foundation. The foundation has been launched and money is being received there and grants being provided to the public. We are working on implementing a teen living room through the National Alliance of Mental Illness that is being pursued for, I believe, the downtown area? Yes. Which will be, I think, the first of its kind in the area, so that'll be an exciting way to reach that segment of the community. We continue to offer employee health screenings to our employees to try to early identify potential medical issues before they become serious problems. We had a very exciting employee appreciation event that several of you participated in on Friday. So that was fun, an active way to get out, and people cheated bags, but other than that, it was a successful event. And finally, we talked about this evening, OSLAD grant for Ehlert Park. And we did receive state funding, and we will be working on, over the winter, getting bids and design services for replacing the tennis courts at Ehlert Park.
Very good. Any questions on Goal 7? Questions, comments?
Weren't we also offering, this might be for the chief back there, weren't we also offering not just pastoral services to officers, but there was another, you had meetings to offer them a way to reach out to other officers for, if you wish to. Yeah, there was another item that's not on here that you had offered other officers so they can reach out to other officers in Blue through Chicago area when they're dealing with trauma incidents and PTSD incidents as well. That was implemented as well, right? Yeah, so there was another accomplishment that was done there, and then there was also social worker services that we offer people in our village who are having issues and like through traumatic events, through whether highly traumatic events that we were offering that too. So there were other items that were in here that should probably as accomplishments as well.
Thanks, Mike.
And I'll just add too, from signing up for Parks and Rec programs recently, I think it's really cool. You can easily add on a donation when you're signing up for a parks event. So just want to make sure everyone knows you can do that. And aside from having fundraisers or whatever else the foundation's planning, I think that was a great step to add that into the checkout. Sneaky. Caught me.
She is sneaky.
Creative.
Nice.
Okay, last but not least, develop a branding marketing campaign to attract new businesses to Brookfield.
And the 2 points in red were Beeline program and economic development coordinator secured and focusing on potential campaigns.
And we've talked about all of these that we've accomplished this year already. Enjoy Brookfield has been launched. As Trustee Conroy mentioned, we have the stickies on the windows. Economic development plan has been approved, and we will continue to pursue that. EDC has started and has just begun its work, and we will have a budget workshop coming up in the next month or two, and we'll be discussing bringing forward perhaps some money that we're looking to spend on professional marketing work.
Very good.
That's what we have.
Any questions on that particular goal? Okay. And just as Tim started at the beginning with the preface to this, it's important that we do this on an annual basis. I know several trustees have asked that, we all believe in these plans, but as Tim pointed out, sometimes we get caught up in the data stuff and looking back and seeing what we've done and what we plan on doing and the progress that we're making are good reminders. When we get the staff memos for our committee meetings, talks about how it ties into previous plans referenced, and I think it's really important because I know this board understands the importance of planning and but it's also measuring our progress in the plans and having measurable successes. So, any other questions or comments on this item?
I think it's great. I just was curious. I know this goes through 2023 and next year's 2023. Is there a plan to make more plans?
I'm glad I write these notes down to myself and then I don't read them very closely. Yes, we are going to update this plan next year, probably in the spring. Mr. Oberweis, who we used, and I've actually used several times, he's now relocated, so he's not around, but I will find a viable replacement, and we will, if the board is amenable to it, probably in spring, work and create a new plan.
I thought it was a great process, so I think it's great to keep it going.
Absolutely, I agree. Absolutely. So it's one of the better nights, I think, that I hope that the village board spends, certainly from my perspective, to hear what you all think and want to do. So very important.
Well, I kind of remember that was kind of our first post-COVID meeting where we could actually get together and meet in person. And I think, I talked about the energy that night and the excitement, the ideas that came in. And we went pretty long that night, but that was an exciting undertaking in September of 2020, and now we're following up on it. So, okay. All right, if there's nothing further on that, that ends the items we have up for discussion on the committee of the whole. I will once again open up to public comment. Is there anyone on the right side that wants to comment? Frank, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, my wife told me to behave myself. So listen to her.
I understand that you said that the lead line replacement for the houses from the homes to the street, is that gonna be paid for by the village, or is that up to us?
That will be paid for by the village. If you have lead in your private sewer line, in your private water line, at the time that we are replacing that water main, we will be replacing your private service line.
From the house to the street?
From the house to the B box, and from the B box, which is the valve in the parkway, to the street will be replaced at no charge to the resident.
Okay, now, when are they gonna do this, or when can I find out, because they replaced the water meter already, I mean,
Yeah, you can contact our public works director tomorrow, and just where you live. If you don't live on a street that we're planning right now to replace the water mains, you'll have to wait till that time that we replace the water mains.
yeah, because they're just redoing my street now, they're finishing. Then the other thing was about the backflow preventers on the house for the sewers, is that on the village too, or on us?
That is a split, 50-50 split.
50-50 split, okay.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. And I'll verify you behaved tonight if she asks.
Oh, she's
Very
back.
nice, that's very nice.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there, Mr. Clark, so you don't need me to, I didn't see you hiding there, Sarah. I was gonna call you and tell you he behaved. Anyone else on the right? Anybody on the left? Okay, there's no need for executive session, so at 8:33 PM, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Motion was made by trustee Cote, second by trustee Kaluzny. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark?
Aye.
Trustee Cote?
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks?
Aye.
Trustee Conroy?
Aye.
Trustee Leclerc?
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're adjourned at 8:34 PM. Thank you for coming.